Good morning. This is the clerk. The meeting is now live on YouTube and the internet.
Hi, Tony. Would you like to do a mic check, please?
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jay Logan. Can we do a mic check, please?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. We can hear you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Sylvia. Can we do a mic check, please?
I am unmuted now. How does it sound?
Sounds good. Thanks very much.
Terrific. Thank you.
Good morning, Rob. Can we do a mic check, please?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Hello, Tricia. Can we do a mic check, please?
This is Trisha.
We can hear you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, George. Can we do a mic check, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. We can hear you. Hello, Supervisor Wasserman.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thank you. Spring is my favorite season.
And good morning Supervisor Wasserman. This is Peggy Doyle and I'll be clerking the meeting today.
Awesome. Thank you, Peggy. Glad to have you aboard.
Glad to be here.
Hello, Sarah. Can we do a mic check, please?
Yes, hi, this is Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Joe. Can we do a mic check, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
Well, as soon as we have Supervisor Simidian on board, we will get started.
I don't see him yet.
I'm sure his appearance is imminent. There's Sylvia Gallegos.
Good morning. I just didn't want you to feel all alone in this sea of blank screens.
Blank screens.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. And a regular meeting, if we were missing one soup, we'd still have 4. I'll send the soup a text message. I see Harry got added in. Well, I hope everyone's feeling healthy. I hope you've all been vaccinated or have appointments to be vaccinated. Hi, Chief Glass. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Supervisor.
We're just waiting for Supervisor Simidian, and then we'll get underway. How's Chief Bowden doing these days, Chief Glass?
No, I stopped over at his house yesterday and had lunch with him. Thank you for asking. He's on the road to recovery. So
Good.
yeah, we're looking forward to him getting back in the seat, and he can't wait to come back. Sitting at home has been challenging for him. Somebody with that, drive and personality, he wants to be engaged in all this.
Well,
Yeah.
you've done a fine job communicating in his absence. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Supervisor, I just heard from a member of Supervisor Simidian's staff.
Yes.
They are contacting your staff as well. He is running about 5 minutes behind this morning, so he should be here momentarily.
Okay. Do we have? I don't even think we have public comment. Oh, we do. We have one speaker. All right. Well, we'll just, I hope none of your baseball teams lost 2 games yesterday. That sucked from my position. We were ahead 3-0 going to the 9th, gave up 5 runs on 1 hit. It's almost impossible to do.
Can't we talk about the Oakland A's instead? Who had
Yes.
a walk-off in the 10th inning,
Yeah,
13-12.
Which George is what, their 10th or 12th game in a row?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. We went and saw their 8th or 9th on Saturday. It was great fun.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, the A's are so amazing with their payroll. Yeah, Sylvia, what I'm going to be talking to Doctors Cody et al. At the next meeting. The Giants put on a game and they had a section where everybody, not households, could all sit together if they had proof of vaccination. And so I've got small businesses now, like people that do yoga studios, saying we'd like to hold classes of 25 people inside without masks. And the big difference, I think, is that in the stadium, they're outside. And in the other, they're inside. But, if you're vaccinated, it's kind of getting like,
It's like,
let my people go. Yeah.
yeah, our my bar studio is receiving input from clients that they would like everyone to show proof of vaccination. So I've taken the guidance is take a photo of it. So I did. It's almost as significant as my passport now. And we'll see if that's the trend.
Yeah, I got my real ID yesterday. So that was just little things.
Congratulations.
And what bar is it you said that you frequent?
It's a
Oh, we're recording.
community
Never
broadcast.
mind. Don't answer. There's
It's
supervisor.
a bar studio. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. For the record, a bar studio. Okay. Peggy, if you'll call this meeting, I'll call the meeting to order if you'll take roll.
Vice Chairperson Semedian,
Here.
Chairperson Wasserman.
Here as well. Let's go to public comment. I see 3 on my screen, so we'll give each of them 3 minutes.
Our first speaker is Scott Largent. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Scott Largent. I'm very concerned with the no place to go as far as motorhomes and cars right now. I've watched everything pick back up, at least in the city of San Jose, and there really is no safe option right now for the amount of people that are living in cars and motorhomes. I brought this up a couple of meetings kind of directed towards you, Joe, that a lot of people are coming out from Palo Alto now because they're being swept up and down El Camino near Stanford University. A lot of the signage has changed. It's making it so people cannot park on the side streets or kind of on that main run of El Camino. I do understand that it got pretty bad over the years. A lot of people were keeping their areas clean. But now they're kind of all ending up out here in San Jose at the crash zone. There are no options. And they are also doing the same thing here with changing the signage. Some of these signs out here, actually most of them now, say no parking from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So you can only go really park over at the Target, which is, of course, private property. They're not going to let you stay there. I am wondering why the fairgrounds, and I understand that crown jewel and nobody wants to let anybody stay there temporarily, why we can't do something like that. A lot of these people are kind of organized. Most of them go to work. I'm just talking the functioning people out here. Why do we not want to kind of pull them out of this horrible situation that they're kind of in? I think these people can get back into life in a way, and I think the pandemic kind of derailed them pretty badly. But I worry the county's just not paying attention. Out here, this should have been some type of FEMA camp. And I know our federal government reimbursed our county for, I believe, 75% of all those hotel rooms, but we needed a FEMA camp. I mean, we needed a mental health FEMA camp. This is everywhere. I focus on a lot of this stuff. I do a lot of research about, what people are going through, losing property, losing RVs, but this is literally everywhere in every one of your cities. Drive down, Stevens Creek as an example. You got Santa Clara on one side, San Jose on the other. Every single side street has a van, an RV, a car. It's just a common thing. And we need to get these people back on track. And they are just being thrown out now. And the ticketing now, it's ridiculous. I mean, add insult to injury. People sheltered in place. They rode things out. Now help them get out of these situations. So thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Roland. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, Supervisors. Roland O'Brien in San Jose. Thank you so much for the generous 3 minutes. I think you should take over the VTA. The thing I want to talk to you about, though, this morning is to follow up on the conversation I've just had with County Parks and the Historical Heritage Commission. It's a property situated at number 272 Currie Drive, Curre Drive. It's at the corner of Currie Drive, San Ignacio. It used to be known as a Paisac Ranch, and it was a former Ignacio Bernal residence, so it has got some historical heritage. We paid $1.8 million for that property 20 years ago, approximately $600,000 more than its current market value. I personally tried to buy it for 400,000, but I got beat to it. This used to be a residence for a park employee until the roof developed a leak, at which point the entire terracotta tile roof somehow disappeared. The issue right now is vandalism and safety, because we had a 2-alarm fire in the backyard last year. I don't know who did that. But in closing, what I'm respectfully requesting the supervisors is that you consider a budget appropriation to rehabilitate this property to a livable condition, so that a park employee, and preferably a family, could actually be in there, take good care of this property, and in particular, make sure that the surrounding land is safe, and we don't have, any more arson or anything of that nature. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Roland.
Next speaker is Rhoda Fry. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, Supervisor Wasserman and Supervisor Simidian. Happy Earth Day. It should be no surprise to you that I'm going to be talking about quarries today. For years, I've been saying that the Bay Area does not need a local cement plant. The Lehigh cement plant is one of our state's biggest air polluters, being number 2 for sulfur, 3 for hydrochloric acid, 4 for particulate matter, 6 for nitrogen and VOCs, and 10 for hexavalent chromium. Lehigh also has the worst record of violation for labor safety among our state's 8 cement plants. As compared with a similar sized plant in Lucerne, Lehigh had over 50 times more in proposed labor safety fines from 2017 to 2019. Lehigh was fined a whopping $1.4 million. While Lehigh has been closed for the better part of a year, California's cement consumption increased and other cement plants retained full employment. The myth is busted. The Bay Area does not need Lehigh. And on March 18, the CEO of its parent company, Heidelberg Cement of Germany, Dominik von Achten, confirmed that the plant has been mothballed and in doing so has increased profits. It is time for the county to stop kowtowing to this $45 billion multinational company that acts with environmental impunity. Presently, the Water Board is considering a paltry $50,000 fine for polluting Permanente Creek with 5.25 million gallons of chlorinated water from San Jose Water. That's 200 person-years of water. There are no fines from other agencies for water waste. This is not okay. Where does the county stand on water waste? Why is Lehigh continuing to receive preferential treatment from regulatory agencies? On the subject of preferential treatment, the county has not issued any fines for the illegal construction of a 40-foot wide road. Per the county conditions of approval, a wildlife study would have been required prior to construction. This did not happen before dozens of trees were removed during bird nesting season. I wanted to mention this because, as I said, today is Earth Day. Finally, I'd like to thank Supervisor Simidian for bringing up an issue pertaining to Lehigh not getting building permits for the repair of its giant 83-year-old crumbling silos at the previous Board of Supervisors meeting, along with asking about the cement plant's conditional use permit and potential need for the quarry's interim management plan. Concrete silos experience unusual loads, and it is frightening that Lehigh did not get building permits. Lehigh should not be held above the law and must be held accountable. Please also read my written comment, which includes a comprehensive article from the Los Altos Town Crier. Thank you, and remember, let's protect Mother Earth. Happy Earth Day.
And Rhoda, in honor of Earth Day, I'm wearing my dirt shirt. I just wanted you to know that. All right. Thank
And
you.
that concludes our public speakers.
Thank you very much, Peggy. I appreciate that. Supervisor Simidian, we move on to item 3, which is the approval of our consent calendar, which currently includes items 8 through 12. Do you have any additions, subtractions, comments, motions?
I'm happy to move approval of the consent calendar as contained in our agenda. I do have I guess it's a question for staff if they're available on the proposed budget, and that is it appears to me that there is budget language referencing in the Los Altos Hills County Fire District. There's budget language referencing a new engine water tender, but not budget language with respect to what's known as Station 8 in the area, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if staff could just comment on that. I know our budget is a bit of a work in progress, and that we've got May workshops and June hearings. So if staff could weigh in on that, I'd appreciate some clarity.
Sure, we'll start with Sylvia, I think.
Good morning. I would suggest that the question be, what I heard was for the fire district, and I believe the fire district staff are present.
We have Chief Glass here. And who else do we have? Chief Glass, your comments, please.
Yeah, I believe General Manager Logan from Los Altos Hills County Fire District is on the line. I'd be happy to speak to this topic as it relates to the operational impacts. Currently, we have a truck company that is at the end of its service life, and we have been meeting with the Los Altos Hills County Fire District to develop what the best operational plan looks like going forward for the district. So in conjunction with the general manager and her team, we have recommended that a water tender be evaluated to replace the current truck company that is up there. And with that, I'm happy to take any specific questions on the actual apparatus or its use operationally.
Thank you. And we do have Ms. Logan on. I didn't see you before.
Yes.
Supervisor Submitted, who would you like to ask questions of?
And thank you. And just, I'm happy to follow up on some of this when we get the report from the Los Altos Hills County Fire District in just a moment. I mostly just want to make sure, and this is directed to county staff and budget folks in particular, that if it's at all possible to move forward with staffing Station 8, and I know those conversations have been underway and everybody's working hard to see if they can make that happen, that we not find ourselves in a situation where our budget does not allow that, does not accommodate that, because we get to yes on Station 8 at the wrong time in the budget cycle. So that's my primary concern here. And if Ms. Logan can shed some light and or county staff, that would be helpful.
Yep, Ms. Logan.
Yes, as I understand it, Station 8 is not on the budget that it's submitted by OBA under the consent calendar today, because it's considered a contract program, whereas the other items that are submitted on the budget are one-time projects. So that's my understanding of how that differentiates in the budget. And I would just confirm that with county staff.
I think that answers my question. I would just ask Ms. Gallegos, as a representative from the county executive's office, if she could work with all parties to make sure that if we can get to yes on Station 8, that the budget process does not preclude that from happening. Okie doke. Thanks.
Happy to communicate that to the budget director.
Thank you, Sylvia. Appreciate that. So Supervisor Simidian, that answers your questions, and your motion then stands approving items 8 through 12.
It does. And I appreciate Ms. Gallegos weighing in, because I think it probably is a question for OBA and Mr. Ituria's team. So thank you for that. And I'm ready to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as contained in our published agenda with that comment/request.
Thank you, sir. I second that motion. So Peggy, that passes unanimously. We now move on. Well, let me just double check something here with Peggy. And we have no speakers on the consent items. Okay. Item number 4 is to receive report. I think we're going back to Ms. Logan from the Management Audit Division of Los Altos Hills County Fire District.
Yes, thank you. Do you want to start with a Management Audit Division report as we have in the past, Supervisor Wasserman, or would you like me to?
Yes, our action is to receive the report, so please report away.
Okay. Well, the district has received a clear report again in March from Management Audit Division. So we're very, very pleased. And the main thrust of the report in March is to talk about the district hydrant water systems. So I'm available to answer any questions, but that's proceeding very well. As part of the recommendation 1.1 in management audit, there was some very definite comments made that the district has been very attuned to and has been providing compliance. So I'm very pleased for that. Pleased the Board of Commissioners has assisted with that, and just available to answer any questions to highlight what's already in the report submitted.
Thank you. And with that, I'll turn to our management audit manager, Cheryl Solov, who I just saw she was on. There she is. There you go. Cheryl, your comments, please.
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Morning.
Everything that the district could have implemented that the board directed them to implement from our audit recommendations has been implemented to our knowledge, with the exception of certain improvements in record keeping, which to our knowledge has been implemented to the extent that it could be under the circumstances.
Wonderful.
So at this time, we have no concerns about the district's implementation of the board's direction.
That's hard to achieve, Ms. Logan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Supervisor Simidian, any questions of either?
No, I appreciate the fact that this is, I believe, the 6th straight month where we've had clean report with sign off from the management audit team, and I thank them for continued review. Ms. Logan referenced the hydrant system and the management audit finding about the sort of those processes previously. I think I see Mr. Cheladin on the meeting roster here, Mr. Chairman, and with your permission through the chair, I just want to ask him, is the hydrant process being undertaken in a way that's consistent with the audit and his reading, and are we dotting our I's and crossing our T's, or is the district dotting its I's and crossing its T's on that process? Because that was one of the issues that was raised in the audit previously.
Thank you. Christopher.
Sure. Yes, Chair Wasserman and Supervisor Simidian, since I've been representing the district and County Council's been representing the district, General Manager Logan and I have really reviewed all of the original documents surrounding the hydrant and related infrastructure, and are very comfortable in the current role that the district is playing with regard to that infrastructure. And in addition, I would just highlight that's in the materials that we're going out to bid for an on-call services contract, so that the ability for hydrant strikes to be addressed very quickly can be done in compliance with all of the public contracting code requirements, as well as generally county procurement policies. So in my opinion, absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, part of the reason I asked that question is that Ms. Soloff, as always, indicates that that which has been done or can be done has been done. I guess I should have said that which can be done has been done, and that some other items are appropriately ongoing. And what I think Mr. Cheladin is telling us is that that's one of the ones that's ongoing, and it's ongoing in a way that is consistent with the recommendations from the audit. So that's the concern that I wanted to make sure we had addressed there. Through the chair, if I may, I would like to hear from Ms. Logan and or anyone else on her team about the status of Station 8 negotiations. Mr. Chairman, you'll recall this is the fire station that has not been in use up at in the hills of Palo Alto, where there's some potential for multi-jurisdictional benefit. And I'm hoping we can get to that before before fire season or early in the fire season at any rate. And I know that's a hurry up effort. So let me ask through the chair where we are with Ms. Logan on that.
Please, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Simidian. Yes, I'm working with Acting Fire Chief Glass, and he is acting with Palo Alto. So it's going to be a 3-member kind of agreement Whereas Palo Alto owns Station 8 and will provide that station, make the facilities agreeable and amenable to firefighters coming in. And then Central Fire will provide the apparatus and part of the crews along with Palo Alto. And the district is pleased to be able to support that effort by payment for the wages for the crews. And the reason we're able to do that is through our funding, and then also because it's a shift of the funding from our current, what we call mode staffing in high fire seasons, better applied than that funding to Station 8. And Station 8 is a critical position right on the Page Mill Road, Foothill Park, Palo Alto Park. And so we have a lot of intrusion of fire ignitions from that area, and there'll be a crew there. So that's kind of my best operational knowledge. I'll turn it over, if I could, through the chair to Acting Fire Chief Glass to comment.
Chief Glass.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, Supervisor Simitian. We're happy to talk about this very important step forward in evaluating whether or not we can get this contract across the table. We've had great partnerships with City of Palo Alto Fire and Los Altos Hills County Fire District. Again, as General Manager Logan indicated, Palo Alto Station 8 sits in a unique position for us to be able to provide services to multiple jurisdictions, including the City of Palo Alto, the Los Altos Hills County Fire District, and some of the unincorporated portions of Santa Clara County. And so we look forward to this moving forward. And I'm happy to take any specific operational questions. Our vision is this is an all-risk, all-hazard ALS, which is the Advanced Life Support Apparatus that provides paramedic services to the folks using the Foothills Park area, the Page Mill Corridor, the open space in Los Trancos, as well as the Los Altos Hills County Fire District. And we understand that this particular portion of Los Altos Hills is difficult for us to serve from the current El Monte station. We've looked at the different response times metrics, and we feel that this would be of significant value to all involved.
Awesome.
Thank you. Just a quick thanks to the district and Central Fire Chief. Thank you, and Palo Alto for trying to pull this together. You know, we know it's always harder and more work when it's multi-jurisdictional, but I think this is one of those times, Mr. Chair, where there really is a benefit that is multi-jurisdictional if we can pull this together. And as the chief and Ms. Logan have referenced, if you can, you know, with this particular location, end up enhancing fire protection for folks in Los Altos Hills, folks in Palo Alto up in the hills, folks in the unincorporated area, the folks at Mid-Penn with precious open space, and even, as I understand it, you know, in the event of a mutual aid need, probably a little plus for the city of Los Altos. I think, you know, this was I'm raising this and pushing it, Mr. Chairman, quite bluntly, because one of the questions that came up last October was, you know, are there multi-jurisdictional benefits? Is the district sort of contributing to a regional benefit? And to some extent, does that take the burden off Central Fire? And I think the answer is, yeah, absolutely. If we can pull this off, it's a winner all around. So let me just go to that timing question and ask either Ms. Logan or Mr. Cheladin. You know, I've been, candidly, Mr. Chairman, I've been pushing them to see if they can't deliver this before we go to a summer recess so that we do get that key fire season protection. What's our timing at this point, Ms. Logan?
I have the timing to put it in front of the Board of Commissioners at the May 18th meeting to accept the agreement, and working with County Council now, both Chris Cheladin and Steve Mitra, to that effect. So perhaps there can be comments there.
Mr. Cheladin, through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
I've just gotten in the last few days consensus on a term sheet. And so I'm going to be putting pen to paper here in the next few days and circulating a draft agreement for review in the hopes that we can reach an agreement conceptually. And then, as Jay mentioned, it would go on the May agenda, and a goal that it would go on the last regular meeting, or the first regular meeting of the Board of Directors in June, with Palo Alto accepting the agreement. I'm assuming sometime between the Board of Commissioners at Los Altos Fire and the Board of Directors acting the Board of Supervisors acting as the Board of Directors.
So does that mean we're targeting our board meeting for June the 8th?
Yes.
It sounds like I'm trying to, thank you. I'm trying to make sure we got some real targets here. And then if for any reason, unfortunately, that wasn't possible, we'd still have the opportunity to take action on the 22nd before our summer board recess. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I certainly hope we can meet those targets. And Mr. Chair, if there's anything our board can do to facilitate that or accommodate that, I hope we'll do so. And I know our agendas are sometimes crowded, but I really think on a matter like this one, we ought to make sure there's space. And if we can humanly and appropriately get to it by that deadline, that would be great. Ms. Logan, we sometimes struggle with lag time after board action before something kicks into place. Your thoughts and perhaps Chief Glass's thoughts through the chair again as to whether the service could commence PDQ after board action?
I would think so, Chief Glass. I'll refer to you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the apparatus available. I've been in conversations with the chief from Palo Alto, so it's a matter of turning on the staffing mechanism within our agencies and then moving forward. So we should be able to execute very quickly.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chair. If you'd like a motion to receive the report, I am happy to do so.
I'm going to say yes to that with the direction you gave, and Supervisor Committee, and we will fit in whatever's necessary before the recess on whatever agenda. As soon as it's ready, we'll put it on there. Please remind me to do so, and we'll put it on there and get it done. I must say how truly impressed I am with the three entity collaboration that's taken place with providing the land and the building, providing the funding, providing the personnel. I know, as anybody, I'm sure everybody does, the sooner you can get to a fire, the better your chances of keeping it small. So I think what you've all done is very, very impressive, and we'll get it on that agenda, and we'll get it approved after Ms. Logan has gotten her group approved. I know Mr. Cheladin will bring it to our board and we'll get it approved, Supervisor.
Thank you very much.
You've got a motion to receive the report and the direction given, and I second that. That passes unanimously. We now move on to item number 5, consider recommendations relating to the final civil grand jury report entitled, "Why Aren't There More Female Firefighters in Santa Clara County?" And with that, excuse me while I turn over my binder pages here. And I think Chief Glass, we start with you.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you, Chair, Supervisor Simitian. At the March 9th, 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting, the Fire District's response to the civil grand jury report was referred to FGOC and Hewlett for further discussion and review. We have submitted a legislative file providing clarification on the civil grand jury response for this meeting. We're prepared to provide a brief presentation and or answer any questions that the committee may have. Excuse me.
Please go right ahead.
Okay, and I have on the call with me today Director of Business Services Veronica Needla and our Senior Management Analyst Trisha Yin, who will be supporting me through this process. There were some potentially specific questions that they deal with on a regular basis and maybe more poised to answer for the group. Okay, next slide, we'll begin. All right, our current and ongoing efforts as it relates to increasing female recruitment within the fire service. We, in 2020, implemented a firefighter position. This is non-engineer. And what that means is that this is a position that is not required at the entry level to drive and operate or pump the fire apparatus. What this helps us with is potentially allowing us to have a higher academy and probation success rate. We went from 18 months to 12 months, and in that back 6-month period is when we introduced the driving and the pumping and the operating of the apparatus, and we saw a higher than normal fail rate just because of the complexities of the firefighting job. We also took an opportunity to look at our age requirement, and we moved that from 21 down to 18, exposing a younger group of folks to the fire service. This gave us, while only 3 years, it allowed folks to transition straight from high school right into the fire service. The Firefighter One certificate that we required, we felt sometimes could be a hurdle or a hindrance to those that may not be able to access the different schools that teach that. So we brought that training in-house, and we provide that in a 16 to 18-week academy and provide that training to the firefighters as they come in. And as I said, we reduced our probationary period from 18 to 12 months. Next slide, please. Our current and ongoing efforts include the constant evaluation of our testing process and how we bring people into the organization. Originally, when I got hired, it was an all internal process. It was run by our personnel division. At some point, we took a look at that and we said, we're just not getting the numbers that we need. While it was really focused locally, we weren't casting a broad enough net. So we take a look at the NTN network. We use that as the national testing network. And this cast a very large net and allowed us to bring in more diverse candidate pool. However, we lost a little bit of the local focus. So in constant review of that, we were able to find something more local, specific here in California. It's the California Joint Apprenticeship Committee's Firefighter Candidate Testing Center. And this is FCTC, a lot of acronyms here, and I apologize for that. But this is a way for us to keep it focused local here in California and able to cast that wide net and look for more diverse candidates. And it absolutely includes our local folks that are available here within the county that may show interest in the testing process. Next slide, please. Obviously, we're participating in all of our local and statewide career fairs. We've been present at over 8 since 2016. And the last year, obviously, has proven to be challenging in our outreach due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but we're committed to being out there in the public's eye and being able to present at all of the staples that the fire department is known for. Our participation in the NorCal First Alarm Girls Fire Camp actually began in 2017 with their inception. It was hosted at the city of Santa Clara by Chief Panko and her team over there. At that point, they were not qualified as a nonprofit, but the agency still felt value in it. We sent crews on duty in apparatus from our agency. We supported it with logistics, food, water, and we felt that it was a really valuable opportunity. And we have been participating with personnel present every year. And I am proud to announce that we are going to be a host of the NorCal Girls Fire Camp in 2022.
Nice.
Obviously, we're out there doing our normal fire safety, first aid classes. Our online outreach has been improved and modernized due to COVID-19. Our station and apparatus tours were in the schools, and at all times available is recruitment flyers, recruitment information, and the ability to reach and touch all of the different folks within our community. We've taken the time to update and modernize our career website, which is located at www.sccfd.org, where there's almost a 20-page document that literally walks individuals through on how to become a firefighter. We're active on social media, including Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and we're always putting out our opportunities for recruitment at all positions within the organization, not just firefighter. I'm also proud to announce we have 16 members as part of our volunteer firefighting program. We think this is a wonderful stair-step opportunity for folks to be able to get into the organization. At this point, we have 13 male firefighters and 3 female firefighters in that process. Next slide. Probably one of the biggest accomplishments that I'm really proud to talk about today is the creation of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. This was initiated in the fall of 2020 prior to the issuance of the Civil Grand Jury Report. It's a 9-member committee made up of diverse members throughout the organization from both the safety and 40-hour side of the business. This is going to serve as an advisory committee to our executive staff as we move forward making decisions around recruitment, retention, mentoring, promotion, and policy. The key focus right now is developing our new recruitment outreach strategies, and we've tasked our group with coming back to us in May to deliver some of the options that are available. And they've already begun outreach to some of the agencies we feel are doing a really good job at that diversity, including Santa Clara City and Alameda County. The Civil Grand Jury Report findings were critical on recruiting and mentoring. We take that very seriously. And then, of course, anything else the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee wants to provide to the administration, we are, of course, open to hearing what they have to say. In the FGOC meeting, we were also directed by Supervisor Lee to begin some outreach with the county's Office of Women's Policy. And so our Personnel Division is going to begin that very soon. Please. In closing, and I stated this, May 1st was the deadline for the DEI committee to get back to us with some of their ideas on our recruitment and mentoring. And we look forward to meeting with them and developing a roadmap forward for implementation in the next 1 to 2 years. Next slide. I want to just really highlight the demographics of the organization. I'll start with the sections in kind of the reddish salmon color. This is only the section that the Civil Grand Jury report reviewed. And so suppression, as we look at it, which is the safety side, the red lights and sirens, the people, the men and women on our fire trucks total 219. Of that, the percentage of female firefighters we have is 5.48, which is an increase over what was reported in the Civil Grand Jury report at 5%. That's because we've already onboarded and hired 2 additional female firefighters. And again, we threw in the non-Caucasian just to show that there's more to diversity than just female. It's important to make sure that you're reflective of the community that you serve. The more reflective of the community that you serve, the better service that you can deliver. But what I want to talk briefly about is the total employees at Santa Clara County Fire. That includes all the non-suppression people that make this business what it is. That's the fire prevention inspectors, the hazmat inspectors, our community education and risk reduction team, the folks in our support services division, training. That number is 17.28% female. And again, we threw in the non-Caucasian because it's more than just male or female. It is a lot to do with diversity and reflectiveness of your community that you're serving. One last thing I'll highlight before we close out and I finish is the percentage of female administrative staff. The executive leadership here at Santa Clara County Fire totals 10. And of that, 4 are female. And again, that shows a 40% reflection of our female administrative executive staff. And so some of those positions are safety and some of those positions are not, but yet they are critical to our success. Next slide. I just want to take the opportunity to thank the committee for hearing out the presentation. And again, we plan on updating our Civil Grand Jury response to reflect the details that were presented here today and at the FGOC meeting. And we look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Super. Thank you very much, Chief. Supervisor Smitty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief. Just by way of background, I perhaps should share at this point that when this item came to us, I think it was in March, on our consent calendar, Chief, I pulled the item from consent for a couple of reasons, one of which you have absolutely no reason to be aware of, and that is that this is an issue I dealt with 25 years ago in the city of Palo Alto, when in the mid-90s, when I was a city council member and a mayor in Palo Alto. And and Palo Alto, of course, was included in the grand jury report, as you will recall. So, imagine my disappointment thinking that we had tackled this issue a quarter of a century ago in Palo Alto, only to see Palo Alto's numbers not reflect as much progress as we might have hoped. Let me just put it that way. And I was particularly disconcerted by that lack of progress, because I remember in the mid-90s, and of course the world was a very different place then, pushing as a local council member for budget language in the municipal budget that called for increased outreach and aggressive affirmative action for women and communities of color, as you also referenced. And what was so satisfying at the time is that following that action at the local level, I believe 6 of the next 12 firefighters who were hired were women. And the reason that was gratifying to me was that it was an indication that there were talented, capable people out there who wanted to serve in this role, and that we just had to make the effort to go do it. So part of my disappointment, frustration, literally a quarter of a century later was, okay, here we are again, all these years later. The second piece of this is that, you know, of course, and reference, but I don't think the public generally knows that our Board of Supervisors sits as the Board of Commissioners for the Central Fire District, which means that the response to the grand jury has to come from our board. And so what we had in the consent calendar, as you indicated a moment ago, back in March, was a response that I thought I could not vote for as it was then presented, precisely because, as you indicated, it did not include this additional information about efforts that the district is committed to making. I think having that additional information is going to make it more likely that I can get to yes in terms of signing off on a response to the grand jury, because that information indicates a specific set of commitments by your department to address the issues that the grand jury raised, which is what I think we should do if the grand jury raises a legitimate set of concerns, which I clearly think they did. So I want to just underscore, you said it, but forgive me, I want to just ask you again, the response that you would be prepared to ask our board to consider sending to the grand jury would include this additional information, plus the recommendations that came out of the committee hearing process, both here and at FGOC, yes?
Yes, Supervisor.
Thank you. That's helpful. And then, Mr. Chairman, the one other thing I'd like to ask is if it would be possible, Chief, I don't know how good the camera is, but I think you can see the sheet I've pulled from your
Yes.
PowerPoint here. You know, one of the challenges of the role we play at the Board of Supervisors is that there's so much information, Chief. Sometimes it's hard to just cut to the chase, get to the bottom line, whatever other cliche I could trot out this morning. But I appreciate this because it sort of did the job for me. And I think what I'd like to ask, Mr. Chairman, is if the chief could come back to us on, you know, a twice a year basis with a brief report that is essentially an updated version of this sheet every 6 months. I don't want to make you do a lot of paperwork, Chief. That's you know, but you know, essentially, it's a question of reprinting this sheet with new numbers every 6 months and letting us know. Because, Mr. Chairman and Chief, I think you know it's great to have these conversations, but the accountability will really be there if we're looking at the numbers, you know, at least a couple of times a year and say, okay, are the numbers better? Because while I appreciate the process, here's one more cliche for the day, Chief. The proof is in the pudding, and that's what we're looking for. At least I'm looking for. So I don't have anything else, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to offer a motion that we, you know, receive the report and provide direction to, you know, come back to our board with consistent with the recommendations contained in our packet, but also with very explicit direction that the response to the grand jury incorporate the information I've referenced, and that we have a twice annually report back on the departmental demographics using more or less the same form we got today.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. And I know in part of what you said is to forward the response from today's committee meeting to the Board of Supervisors, which was one of the recommended, and you were all inclusive in your motion. Chief, I will say, I thank Central Fire Protection District for creating the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which will hopefully continue to develop more ideas and solutions to make the fire services more attainable and more attractive to qualified women. I also appreciate the fact that district has made efforts to attend career fairs with female firefighters as representatives. This is something that aspiring firefighting women undoubtedly benefit from. More than anything, the county's doors remain open to people of all genders and backgrounds. And as time goes on, I'm hopeful that with smart and effective strategies, more parts of society will reflect this value of inclusivity. And while you were speaking, I was thinking about my staff. And I listed everybody's name, and I'm happy to say that 6 of my 9 staff members are female, so I'll take 67% female in my staff, and 1/3 are non-Caucasian. So I appreciate that. It was raising awareness of what was happening to my staff as well. Thank you very much, Supervisor. Unless you have any other comments, we'll consider that motion passing unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief. Thanks to the folks at the district. I see we got a couple of folks who spent some time with us this morning, and I just wanted them to know they were noted.
Thanks, Veronica and Tricia. Appreciate that. And Peggy, you got that motion passing unanimously as well?
I do, thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 6 is to receive a report from the Office of Supportive Housing relating to the housing development at, this is Charleston in Palo Alto. So we will start with there she is, Consuelo. I almost couldn't recognize you. All right. Consuelo, please go right ahead.
Good morning, Chairperson Wasserman, Supervisor Simidian. Thank you for having us this morning. Consuelo Hernandez, Director, Office of Supportive Housing. As you might recall, on Tuesday, the board approved unanimously the staff recommendation to select Eden Housing. And that will really allow us to move forward very quickly with the next steps in the development phase. And I wanted to highlight 3 key paths that we are pursuing concurrently. The first is a kickoff meeting with the developer to make sure that we are on the same page in terms of timing and to negotiate the development agreement. The purpose of the development agreement is to outline certain expectations that we have of the developer. And the second component is working with the City of Palo Alto's planning department to understand what the critical land use path is. And one example that I can share with you is the City of Palo Alto has a planned community housing overlay. And one of the questions that we have for them is really to understand what the special requirements are. For instance, there's one requirement that if the property abuts an R1 zone, that there is a reduced height in the building that we have to meet. And the city's been very cooperative in making sure that they clarify that information for us. And that will really help us develop a timeline that meets the expectations that Supervisor Simidian outlined for us last year. And then the third thing is to start to develop a community engagement plan, which will allow us to host our first community listening session, either late May or early June. Happy to take any additional questions.
Thank you, Consuelo. I appreciate that. And the mask with flowers on Earth Day. Good job. Supervisor Simidian, we heard this item a couple of days ago, and Consuelo just provided some additional information. The item is agendized as receiving the report. Do you have any questions?
Not a question, just, well, perhaps there's a question folded into the comment, Mr. Chair. And that's this, I have indicated previously that I hope, given the delay that we had in bringing this item forward and selecting a developer, that we could expedite the timeline as much as possible. So I appreciate Ms. Hernandez's description of efforts made to see what we can do to move things right along. I would specifically raise two areas that I'm just sort of want to be transparent about the fact that I'll keep asking and hoping that we can get better. My recollection, Ms. Hernandez, is that the site in question comes back to us sometime earlier in October than the October 31st date here. Am I remembering that correctly? I want to say it's the 15th, but frankly, I don't have confidence in my memory on that.
I believe you are correct, Supervisor.
All right, well, let's just say some earlier date in October. So my first hope, here's where I would ask staff to sort of see what they can do, is that the demolition starts literally after we get the property back. We have plenty of time to plan. This is a year and a half away now. So no reason why the bulldozer shouldn't be pulling up literally the morning after we get the property back. And, it's only a couple of weeks, but a couple of weeks is a couple of weeks. So that's the first piece. The other area there is currently scheduled, Mr. Chair, if you'll look at the timeline, essentially a 5-month delay between demolition start and construction start. And so because I'm looking at November, December, January, February, and March, and I really think we ought to be able to move from demolition to construction quicker than that if we have the approvals, which is, of course, the point that Ms. Hernandez was raising. So I'd like to work with, I'd like to ask staff to work with the developer now that the developer has been identified and selected, and the city to see if we can't start construction sooner than that 5-month lag time would suggest. I think it's a small structure. It won't take 5 months to do demolition and removal and site prep. So I'll move that we receive the report with direction to staff to please work as indicated with all parties to see if we can expedite the timeline.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. And Supervisor, I'm going to share something with you from yesterday.
All right. Dare I ask what that is?
That is the little structure on the property where I'm going to be building a home, and demolition started yesterday, and construction is supposed to start in 2 weeks.
There you go. All right. So you've set a high bar for Ms. Hernandez and her team, but 2 weeks is better than 5 months. So good all around. Thank you.
They took that place down in 25 minutes. It was absolutely amazing. Okay, we have a motion. I seconded it. Ms. Hernandez, any other comments you have or questions about the motion direction? Are you all good?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy, that motion from Supervisor Simidian passes unanimously as well. And we move on to an item. I'm sorry, Peggy, was I interrupting you? Were you saying something?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, and again, like the last two items, we had no members of the public wishing to speak. We'll now move on to item 7, to receive a report from the Office of Supportive Housing relating to the annual state of the supportive housing system.
Thank you, Chairperson Wasserman. I'd like to introduce Catherine or KJ Kaminsky, our Deputy Director, who will be taking the lead in this presentation.
Catherine, welcome.
Thank you. I'm hoping you're seeing my screen here, the presentation.
Yep.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to share this report with you today, supervisors. This is our annual State of the Supportive Housing report. This one builds on the previous reports that we did in 2017 and 18, and our 2019 report was delayed. We were working on it right when COVID hit in March of 2020. So we have combined this report to cover the years of 2019 and 2020. And the purpose of this report is to report on our progress towards our goals for the community plan, as well as describe and highlight the successes of the county and our partners in implementation of the plan. So since 2019 was the last year of our previous 5-year plan, we included in this report a timeline highlighting the changes we've seen since 2015. So that's everything from the creation of our office, the Office of Supportive Housing in 2015, launching the All the Way Home campaign, passage of Measure A, to the opening of the first Measure A housing development, the opening of our first 100% permanent supportive housing developments in 2019, creation of the homelessness prevention system, creation of our lived experience advisory board in 2018, and all the way through 2020 and the approval and adoption of our new 2020 community plan to end homelessness. So I realize you probably can't see it on everything on your screen today, but this portion of the report is really to show just how much has been done over the last 5 years. We know we've come a long way and have a lot more to do as well. Of course, we couldn't talk about 2020 without acknowledging the work of the county and our partners to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. So in 2020, that work included an expansion of our shelter beds by standing up new shelters and hotels when our existing sites had to reduce capacity to allow for social distancing. We launched a shelter hotline to increase access to those shelter beds and have made over 16,000 referrals over the past year. We have 4 new permanent and temporary housing sites that leveraged state Project Home Key funds. And our isolation and quarantine team assisted over 2,000 households with hotel rooms so far, over 4,400 households with financial assistance. And you'll see a little bit more of this on the next slide, but our homelessness prevention efforts expanded dramatically with COVID-19 rental and financial assistance. So despite the tremendous challenges that COVID brought us and the resources that were diverted to emergency response, we still made significant progress on our housing goals. So in 2020, we housed more than 2,000, almost 2,100 households. That represented over 3,200 people. And in addition, as I mentioned on homelessness prevention, we had a goal to expand at the end of 5 years to expand our homelessness prevention system to serve 2,500 households a year. In this past year, with the emergency assistance and response to COVID, we were able to support 14,000 households with emergency financial and rental assistance. And we also faced challenges providing the direct services to clients, but despite that, our partners really stepped up. So when our shelters, we have a goal to increase our capacity of our shelter beds across the county. And in 2020, we actually served more people in shelters, even though our existing emergency shelters had to reduce capacity. So we served over 5,500 unhoused individual in those shelters in the last year.
Thank you. Ms. Kaminsky, if I can interrupt for just a minute. On the far left side where it says served by emergency shelters, and it says 5,538 last year households. So was that some 20,000 people?
I don't have the people number. A lot of it will be higher for people, and we'd be happy to provide that because some of the shelters are family shelters that are serving more than one person per household, but some of the shelters are also just single individual. So this does represent a household number.
Okay, thank you. That's a huge number. Thank you.
And in our housing system, we saw increases in our permanent supportive housing. So compared to 2019, we housed even more folks in 2020. That 635 households were housed in our permanent supportive housing system, and rapid rehousing, over 550 households were housed through those programs. The report also highlights our reaffirms our commitment to housing first, because what we've seen in our outcomes is that it's working. Since 2015, we've housed 11,000 households, but the outcomes for those clients have been really critical for us to track and measure, and we included those in this report. So for example, rapid rehousing, over almost 80% of our rapid rehousing participants obtained permanent housing while they were in those programs. And our retention rate for our permanent supportive housing participants is over 96%. We also took the opportunity to share the results of the Project Welcome Home study. We know that the client outcomes and the client stability is critical for our programs. So just a couple of highlights here, the 86% of the chronically homeless individuals that were served in Project Welcome Home were successfully housed for an average of 2.5 years without any gaps. We also saw that participants had fewer psychiatric emergency services and fewer days spent in emergency shelter. All of the work that we do is collaborative, and we expanded our partnerships in the reporting period for this report. For example, in 2019 and 2020, the collaboration with behavioral health resulted in expanded services to clients, including our homeless engagement and access team, otherwise known as our HEAT team. This is an outreach team with behavioral health focus that's designed to engage with unhoused residents who have been some of the unhoused residents that have been the most difficult to reach. And in fiscal year 20, the HEAT team reached almost 1,600 people and assessed over almost 500 folks for housing. And a quarter of the clients that were receiving services through the HEAT team moved into permanent housing. This slide will look very familiar. In addition to the services, of course, this report includes progress towards our affordable housing development goals. And you're familiar with this effort, but just want to highlight that we have funded almost 3,000 new apartments in 28 developments. And this critical development is happening in 7 cities across our county. In addition to the update on the numbers related to Measure A, the report includes supportive housing highlights that profile clients of our supportive housing developments. So for example, Erica said that her life improved dramatically after she moved into Villas on the Park. And Steve, who you see here on the screen, struggled to find housing after incarceration and is now living stably in Monterey Gateway Apartments. And perhaps most important is accountability to the aggressive targets that we set in the 2020 Community Plan to End Homelessness. So this report includes progress towards those goals. This includes a goal to house 20,000 people by 2025. We're 16% there. We housed 3,200 folks in 2020. So we will have to accelerate and house even more in the years ahead to reach that goal of 2020, a goal of 20,000. We've already expanded the permanent capacity of our prevention system by 50% from 1,000 households in 2019 to 1,500 households in 2020. That does not include the emergency assistance that was as a result of COVID. And we have a goal to double the number of shelter beds. And much of the progress in the first year was a temporary increase, but several emergency interim housing sites have also opened, such as the Casitas project, which will last beyond the COVID emergency. And lastly, this annual report is an important opportunity to tell the progress by the numbers, but also the progress through the voices of the participants in our programs. So it includes residents such as Monica, whose family received support through the Sacred Heart prevention program, and her family was able to remain stably housed with the assistance provided. So again, thanks for the opportunity to provide the update. The full report is attached to the agenda, and we'll make sure all the board offices also receive printed copies as we have in years past. And I am happy to stay on for questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaminsky. That page 9 was really eye-popping for me. We have no, Peggy, I don't see any public speakers. Do you agree?
Correct. We have no speakers.
Thank you. I'll turn to Supervisor Simidian for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of comments and then a couple of questions as well, if I may, through the chair. First, just a statement of the obvious, which is no matter how much we do and how much the county has done and our staff here today have done, we find ourselves farther behind by virtue of larger forces out there in the community that are to significant degree beyond our control. I have to imagine that's more than a little frustrating to folks who are doing the work. And, you know, I think it's tough, frankly, to avoid burnout when you feel like you've just given 110% and things don't look better, they look worse. But I do hope that every member of the staff working on this effort will take some satisfaction from the changes that their work provides in the lives of the clients that they serve. And I found the clients' stories Not that they were new in many respects, but I found the Klein stories were sort of very helpful in getting us past the statistics. And again, I hope the staff will, sort of take some satisfaction from the families and individual lives that they really are affecting through the work. Which takes me to my second comment, which is just one of thanks. And what I want to say here, Mr. Chair, is it's our job at the Board of Supervisors to provide oversight of county operations. And that necessarily involves what I hope is constructive critique by board members in the process. But as I'm looking at the county staff members who are on this call today, what I want to say to them is, we all understand that there are forces out there beyond our control. All we can do is the best we can do. Sometimes we're going to come up short, and board members, myself included, are going to raise that concern. Sometimes mistakes are going to be made, hopefully as few and as minor as possible, because human lives hang in the balance. But and sometimes we're going to have a once a century phenomenon like the pandemic that you all have had to respond to and learn from along the way. But it has been and continues to be an extraordinary effort. And I sort of want to take the moment to let you know that that's understood and appreciated. So let me just let the comments go there. I do have a couple of questions, and one of the questions I have is, by virtue of the pandemic and some of the limitations in terms of how we used the existing shelter that we had, you all have had to go out and create new shelter opportunities. And as the pandemic, we hope, winds down, I worry that we're going to lose some of that expanded shelter capacity, most of that expanded shelter capacity that you have managed to create. And I think that would be a shame, particularly because, candidly, one of the impediments that we confront is community concern, sometimes community resistance. You all have managed to create these new shelter opportunities while addressing those community concerns, helping ameliorate community resistance. And so here's my final question after all that, which is, what can we do to hang on to some of that shelter that you all have created so it doesn't disappear after the pandemic, given the range of need? And I don't know if that goes to Ms. Kaminsky or Ms. Hernandez or frankly to Ms. Gallegos from the county executive's office, because I know there are significant budget implications as well. So through the chair, I'll toss that question out to any and all on the team who can answer.
Sure, I see Consuelo nodding her head. Why don't you start, Consuelo?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Supervisor Simitian, for the question. I will share with you that one of the strategies that we have been working on collaboratively is looking at ways that we can rehouse the individuals that were temporarily sheltered during the crisis. As you know, Supervisor, in your district specifically with the Project Home Key in Mountain View, we really have been working closely with city staff and Life Moves, the operator, to make room for the people that we are housing in our hotels, and a similar strategy with the city of San Jose. And I will share with you, Supervisor and Chairperson Wasserman, that we are always looking for opportunities to expand that. Part of the community plan is to double our shelter capacity. And if we are able to preserve that in a way that leverages the state funding that's coming or any other resources that we have. For instance, we recently were awarded our HAP2 grant, and Catherine can share with you the acronym and the funding sources. All of that to say, Supervisor, that it is something we are considering as we start to demobilize the hotels and our interim operations. Because again, we always look to our overall goal, which is to double the number of of shelter beds.
Well, thank you for that. And the question, the answer anticipated to some extent my next question which was the potential for Project Home Key like models, for lack of a better way to put it, and whether we can sort of replicate that work going forward, again, even post-pandemic, either by acquiring existing hotels or doing sort of a fast build in some locations. It sounds to me like you are anticipating that you're planning to try and do that. Did I hear that right, or am I reading too much into your comments?
No, that is correct, Supervisor Samedi. And in fact, we've had several cities reach out to us already about ways that we can help them plan for a possible home key round 2 fund, either by identifying a hotel, thinking about community engagement earlier on, like some of the lessons learned from the fast pace that the first round of home key dollars came in, and making sure that we apply that now. And there's at least 5 cities, in addition to the city of San Jose, that have reached out to us about identifying possible locations.
Great. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the two of us as the committee members and members of the board, and I don't have the absolute clarity I would like about what the right answer is, but I want to make sure that we don't let this progress that's been made erode. I want to see if we can't build on it and grow it even more, but at a minimum, try and hang on to what the staff has created under these very adverse circumstances. And so I'm inclined, Mr. Chair, to say, could we maybe get a report back every 2 or 3 months at this committee on those efforts? And here I'm going to be a little revelatory, if I may, which is, sometimes I'm asking for report backs because I want to look over the shoulder of the staff and make sure things are staying on track. So let me just be very clear with the team. I see the smile in your eyes, even over the mask, Ms. Hernandez. In this case, that's not what I'm talking about. In this case, what I'm talking about is I want to make sure that as a policy matter, our board understands where we are and what is needed from our board and our county to make sure we can sustain the progress that's been made, and as I say, at a minimum, not slip back. And I just worry that if we let 6 months or a year go by before we say, how we doing, what do you need, that all of a sudden we'll have lost the progress that was made. So this is perhaps an unusual request, but I'd kind of like a somewhat more frequent report back to make sure that we don't let funding or staffing or policy issues slip by that are key to making this happen. Mr. Chairman, it's you're the chair of the committee, so let me ask you what your thoughts are about how you think we might be helpful in that regard.
Thank you. What I really appreciate is you're stating we want to grow, but at the very least, we want to hold on to what our team has achieved at this point. So I agree with what you said, Supervisor Samedi, and Consuelo, I'm going to add in, you're coming back every 3 to 4 months and reporting on this. I assume that's doable.
It shouldn't be a problem, Chairperson Wasserman.
Thank you. What I would like when you do that, and it all ties into everything Supervisor Samedi said, when you come back to us, if you see things slipping, if you see us losing facilities, if you see us losing capacity, or if you see an opportunity, that you use that report back to us to raise that question so Supervisor Samedi and I can then bring it to the board to get whatever resources, whatever help, whatever is necessary at the time to at least maintain what you've accomplished over these last 13 months. I think you've done a great job. I think there's more trouble coming as moratoriums and such expire from renters. We've got a lot more to do, but I think maintaining what we've got should be something that you bring forward to us as soon as you're aware of it slipping or the fact that a lease or something is expiring so that we can help you. And when you bring it back, I ask that you bring it back with suggestions on how to remedy the problem that you're concerned with. Does that work for you, Supervisor Smidian?
It does. What I'd like to do, if it's acceptable to you, Ms. Chair, is move that we receive the report, but ask for report backs as directed. I'm going to ask for 4 times a year, which is every 3 months, more or less.
Okay.
And then if there's a second agreement on your part, just one more comment, if I may.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. I think, we all know that there are costs involved, that there are dollars involved. And if our county executive were here, he would perhaps be reminding us, as he is sometimes obliged to do, that, money we spend in one place is money we can't spend in another place. Fair enough. But I think the only way we can ensure that those hard policy and budget choices get made in a thoughtful and timely way is by having these kinds of conversations as regularly as you're prepared to accommodate. And I think with that, I'll say thank you to all parties once again and take yes for an answer.
There you go. Thank you. And Consuelo, bringing those items forward to us, sometimes your quarterly reports will be 3 or 4 minutes. Everything's going along well, or our system is growing. And sometimes we understand they'll be lengthy. So we look forward to your report in 3 months. An update. Thank you all. And with that, we'll consider item 7 having been received and direction given unanimously. Supervisor, that moves us on to adjournment to our next meeting of May 27th, unless you have any other comments to make.
I do not. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Deputy County Executive Gallegos, did you have a comment to make?
No, sir, other than I think we have for May a not our usual date of the 3rd Thursday in April, I believe, or the 4th.
Correct.
That's it, just for the public record.
Are you saying we?
I believe.
The
So
meeting
usually
is
we
Thursday,
meet.
May 27th.
That's correct. Usually we meet the 3rd Thursday of the month, so this is unusual.
Yes.
It's the 4th Thursday. So just to bring to people's attention, it's not
Got
our
it.
usual schedule.
Got it. So everybody, 4th Thursday, May 27th, 10 a.m. We'll still virtual conference at that time. Thank you all. Stay healthy. Get your friends vaccinated. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.